best do we go about moving forward and strategically marketing our lodging properties here and working hand in hand with them? What are their strategies? What does the inventory look like for Visit Ridgeland and the city of Ridgeland moving forward? So we contracted with Young Strategies out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Mr. Berkeley Young is here with us tonight to present the research report. Mr. Young has over 25 years plus in the tourism industry, starting out in the lodging industry, and then over 20 years of consulting, doing research analysis through Smith Travel Research as a partner, and throughout the United States working with communities to come up with strategic plans on moving forward in their tourism industry, and also analyzing in the development of their lodging industry. So now I'd love to introduce to you Mr. Berkeley Young.
Okay, thank you, Mary Beth.
Can we turn this before just a little bit?
Yeah, before Mr. Young gets started, I want to be consistent in that I think part of the reason that the board had asked that an expert or somebody come up to discuss hotel needs or our future plans, again, that would be something that might have an impact directly on the broker that I work with. Although I'm not an employee and I'm W-9 and all that, I want to be consistent. So if there's questions about this that might have to do with specifically with rates or needs for additional hotels, I think it'd be just best to be consistent and not be in the room while this is going on.
Alan, can that be angled a little bit more?
Okay.
Thank you.
Now you gotta move the other way over here.
Move over here. You gotta take that chair? Okay.
You move that out of
Everybody see it? See where I can stand where I'm not blocking anybody?
You're good.
Can you
You're
see
good.
okay? Good. Okay, so my name is Berkeley Young. My company is Young Strategies. We're based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we have worked for the last 20 years in over 30 states with over 150 destinations. We are not a development company. We do research and planning for communities. Specifically, we work primarily with convention and visitors bureaus, organizations just like Mary Beth's organization here in Ridgeland. In the state of Mississippi, we've worked in Natchez and Corinth and Tupelo and Oxford and Cleveland. And as we work across the country, interestingly, the two states or three states where we do the most work are Wyoming, New York, and Mississippi. And I'm not sure what those have in common, but somehow we do a lot of work in those states. As we analyze a market, we always buy data from a company called STR. It's out of Tennessee. It's originally known as Smith Travel Research. They have contracts with all the major international hotel brands, and all of those hotel brands basically have a front desk system. They dump all their data every night at midnight into the mainframe of Smith Travel Research, and so any person, public or private, can buy that data. And so Mary Beth receives reports every month from STR on this market, and so in the preparation of this report, we've done two things. One, we bought a lot of in-depth analysis data from Smith Travel Research, STR, on Ridgeland, and the hotels in Ridgeland. Then we also did a survey of our own and asked the hotels questions, and they responded. And so I'm going to share that information with you now, and it is my task to somehow make a bunch of statistics interesting for you and make them tell a story. And so you have 16 lodging properties here in Ridgeland. And so all of them, all 16 of your hotels report to STR. That's incredible. In a lot of markets, it's 70 or 80% of the rooms. report. So all of your hotels report, which gives us perfect data for the market. Now, if we look at the bottom left-hand corner, you can see 67% of the rooms in the market are in the south cluster of hotels. And I'll show you a map where these are clustered. There's approximately 1,100 rooms in the south for about 52.6% of your total room inventory. And then a third of your inventory is in the north, right at 32.9% with 553 rooms. When we surveyed the hotels, now all of the hotels in the market are in our STR data. Then we surveyed the hotels and asked them questions. All of the hotels in the north responded, and about half of the hotels in the south that responded. The newer chain-oriented hotels and the larger hotels in the south were more likely to respond than the older, smaller properties. And so what you see in your total inventory here on the right, we've divided your inventory by age. And so you can see you have 3 hotel properties that were built prior to 1989, including your largest property, which is the Cabot Lodge, built in 1986 with 200 rooms. Then in the 1990s, you had 4 properties developed. They make up about 20% of your inventory. And then there was, in the period 2000 to 2010, 41% or 6 properties were built. And since 2011, you had 3 properties built. So now if we break it down by north and south, you can see you have a cluster of hotels in North Ridgeland and a cluster of hotels in South Ridgeland. And it tends to be more of the older hotels are in the south, newer hotels in the north. So this is the inventory for the south. And so you can see here's the 1,100, I'm on page 3, if you're following along. Here's the 1,129 rooms on the left-hand side of the page that make up 2/3 of the inventory, and they are in the south. And so again, you can see that after 2000, after the year 2000, 4 properties were developed basically between 2002 and 2007 for 418 rooms that makes up 37% of the inventory in the south. Now on the right side of the page, here's your north inventory. So what you notice is development stopped in the south in 2007. The last hotel was built, the Residence Inn, in October of 2007. There at the bottom left-hand side of the page. And if you go to the top right, in October of 2008, the Hyatt Place was built in the north, followed by the Embassy Suites, the Home 2 Suites, the Spring Hill Suites, and the Town Place Suites. So since beginning of 2008, all development in Ridgeland has been in the north. And so what you have is a tale of 2 Ridgelands. You have older properties to the south, newer properties to the north, and hotels typically cluster. And so you see 2 distinct clusters of lodging, one in the south, one in the north. There is one Hampton Inn coming out of the ground. It's being built up in the north in the township, 93 rooms. It's under construction. We did not see any published date for its opening, and so we just said that it's estimated to open sometime in 2018. So if we turn the page to page 4, this chart shows the Smith Travel Research classifies all hotels and they put them in a scale. And so the scale goes from economy at the bottom to luxury at the top. And you can see you don't have any luxury properties, but you do have economy properties. And so they have a total of 8 scales that they put hotels in, and your hotels fall within 5 of the 8 scales. And so if you look, there's 3 sets of data here. And so the first 3 columns are for the total market, and that's where it says all at the top. And then the middle says north, and there's 3 columns of data in the north. And then on the far right you have south, and there's 3 columns of data for the south. So you can see, if you compare the north and the south, the north properties, remember they're the newer properties, they have one upper upscale property with 145 rooms, and then you can see there's no upper upscale in the south. Then upscale, you have 2 in the north, 3 in the south, upper mid-scale, 2 in the north, 2 in the south, and then there's no mid-scale or economy in the north. You have 1 mid-scale property in the south and 5 economy properties in the south. So now it becomes even more clear that we have 2 Ridgelands. North Ridgeland has newer, more upscale hotels. South Ridgeland has more of the older properties and some on the economy and mid-scale. All clear? So now I've added in at the bottom of page 4 the day of the week occupancy, north versus south. And so the top line you can see is the north and the bottom line is the south. Numbers by day of week for the last 12 months. And so for the 12 months, every market we ever work in, Sunday night is lowest night of the week. If you ever want to get a deal on a hotel room, call and tell them you want to bring them a group on Sunday night and they'll give you a great deal. Sunday night's always the lowest night of the week. You can see here Sunday night, even in the south, only dips to 40%. It's not unusual for us to see numbers in the 20s and 30s on a Sunday night. And so even Sunday night, you can see the only night that the North hotels dip below 70% is Sunday night. If we take Sunday night out of the equation, you can see every night of the week is better in the North than it is in the South. So the worst night, which would be Saturday night at 71.6 in the North, is better than the best night in the South, which is Saturday night at 64.6%. So you can see for the last 12 months, the hotels in the North are hitting Monday night 78, Tuesday night 89%, Wednesday night 90% occupancy. So those are really high numbers. The red dotted line for 60% is there because in the hotel world, it's not really a written rule, but if you own and manage a hotel, you want to be above the 60% line in occupancy. And at that point, you're covering your debts and hopefully making a little bit of money. And so it's interesting, if you go back and look at hotel trends over the last 30 years, you'll see in any market that when the occupancy in the market starts consistently hitting above 65%, they build a new hotel, it'll drop the occupancy down into the high 50s, and when it rides back up to 65% again and stays consistently above that, a new hotel comes into the market. So the industry fluctuates. And so if Mary Beth's team said, we're going to set our goal to get to 70% occupancy, in most markets that's hard to achieve because as soon as you get above 65%, they're going to build another hotel. So when we see this number, when we see your market consistently exceeding 60% occupancy, and when we see one section of your market hitting consistently in the 70s and above, that right there says there's a new hotel coming, that there's going to be. Because all of these hotels report to STAR, they all see each other's numbers. And so if you manage any chain hotel, you have to set up your front desk system to dump its data to STAR every night or every week. And in exchange, you get back what's called a comp set report. And you get a report back showing how your numbers stack up against your competitive set. So the hotels know what's going on. The chains watch these numbers constantly. And so typically, I'm in a community, Oxford, for example, 5 years ago was running about 45% occupancy year round. And they said, how do we get a new hotel? And the answer is always consistently drive demand up. If demand gets above 60%, you'll get a new hotel. So when we see this kind of demand, when we see numbers this high, it's just assumed there's probably going to be some hotel building going on, and you're going to have pressure from hotel developers that want to build a hotel. The numbers justify it. So now let's turn the page to page 5. And this is really messy looking in a print version because we put 365 days in one chart, okay? So if you'll look at the PowerPoint with me on the screen, it'll tell a better story than looking at it in the book. And so this slide is the north. The next slide is going to be the south, okay? So we're going to look at all 365 days. And so I'm going to put the 60% line in there, and then boom, there's Sunday night, okay? There's a gap in the middle, and it's because we bought the data for the last week of July 2016. So the right side of this is for August, September, October, November, December of 16. And then we start with 2017 in January and go up through July, okay? So this is what we call in the hotel world a running 12 months. So it's a full 12, it's 52 weeks of the year. So there's 52 Sunday nights for you. And Monday night, and this is the north. And so right away we see New Year's, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. So that tells us that business transient is coming here heavily because that's all business travelers who Monday nights are hitting 90% occupancy and higher. And so their Sunday nights are typically below 60%, and then Monday night the business travelers arrive and fill their hotels. But on holidays like Memorial Day Monday, this year 4th of July was on Tuesday, and so there you see what it did to your Monday and Tuesday night. So if you compare this data to data for when 4th of July is on a Saturday, Sunday, you'll see that 4th of July, because it's what we call a floating holiday, Memorial Day, Labor Day, always Monday, okay? So they always hurt the Monday night business in every market if it's a business travel market. But here, you can see that immediately, see how Tuesday came right back? So Memorial Day, Monday, nobody was here, but then boom, Tuesday, business travel came back. But 4th of July was on Tuesday, so business travel stayed away. And the same with Labor Day. Monday night was low, and then Tuesday night it came right back. Interestingly enough, Halloween in the middle of the week can clobber a whole week because conferences and business travel aren't going to conflict with moms and dads getting pictures with their adorable children in cute costumes. So midweek holidays hurt your revenues and can cause a bump. So there's your Wednesday night. So see how 4th of July still kept them away, but Memorial Day and Labor Day, they came right back. Thursday night, we got a little bit more back after the 4th. And then Friday, it dips off. And you can see around Labor Day in September, look how Friday night crashes in the north. And then Saturday night. So the north would love to see groups come in and fill some of these dips out. But it's pretty tough to drive a 4th of July or a Memorial Day or a Labor Day, okay? So now, what we see, if we break it down there in the bottom left, that table shows you that 7% of the year, they're in the 60 to 69% range. 17.6% of the year, or 2 full months, 64 nights, they're in the 70 to 79% range. 19% of the year, more than 2 months, they're in the 80s. They're in the 80 to 89% range. And then 113 nights out of the year, they're in the 90s. I mean, that's just stratospheric. And so 75% of the year, they're over 60% occupancy. So again, the national hotel chains see this data. When they see those numbers, they want to come to Richland and build hotels, okay? So now, let's look at the South. So the same chart, same data, except it's for the South, not the North. This is for the cluster of the hotels. There's our 60% line. So there's Sunday night, Monday night, and you can still see the holidays. There's Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Excuse me, what did we say? That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and now you see, remember in the north, they fall off on Friday. In the south, they go up on Friday and Saturday. And those surges are tournaments and events and things, okay? Now, a very interesting thing is because of the size of your jurisdiction, you have to remember your south hotels are clustered near County Line Road, which means literally across the street, there's competition of money that's going into the next jurisdiction over. And so we have to take that into account. You're not out in the middle. I mean, like when I work with Lubbock, Texas, it's a good 3 to 4 hours to the next competing market, okay? But here, if we don't play the game just right, then we promote Ridgeland just to benefit the other hotels. And a perfect example of that, I think it's always easier to look at another jurisdiction. 58,000 seat football stadium in Oxford, Mississippi they used to have 800 rooms, they now have 1,200 rooms. And that causes what we call compression. You create so much demand for hotel rooms that there's no way the 1,200 rooms in Oxford can meet the demand. So where does it go? Batesville, Tupelo, and all the way up to Memphis. And then meanwhile, the hotels in Oxford, as many of you may know, can charge $600, $700, $800, $900 a night and require a 3-night stay on football weekends, okay? So that's, in a nutshell, supply and demand. And so Oxford on a football weekend could have 5,000 hotel rooms and still sell out. The issue is what about the other, it's 42 nights a year they're sold out, and the other 323 days of the year, they run much lower occupancy. And so that's your concern is, if we don't play this game just right, when we start running really high numbers in the 90s, that means the compression is going somewhere else. And so the question is, if they're sold out in the north, if you call an Embassy Suites or one of those hotels in the north and they can't take your room because they're sold out, are you going to go to one of the hotels in South Ridgeland, or are you going to go to one of comparable, remember the classes I showed you? Or are you going to go to another upscale hotel, which we saw is not in the south? That means now it's going, the compression from the north is pushed to the Hilton that's south of your city limits. Make sense? And so it's kind of like if you think if you're going to a convention in a city, and this may have happened, you book and they say, well, we're sold out in your room block. We don't have a room available for you. If the host hotel of the convention was a Hilton, then if you're going to find another hotel, you're most likely to find another one comparable to that. And so that's the way, and then you get into this issue of business travelers, and you have the Hilton Honors Program and Marriott Rewards and IHG, which is all the Holiday Inn product, that the corporate business traveler wants to work within the point system and the rewards program, those loyalty programs. Bottom line, in the north, 75% of the year, they're over 60% occupancy. In the south, it's only 45% of the year. And remember, weekends are better in the south, weekdays are better in the north. So what that means also is when you talk about like conference center or convention center in the north, their hotels are already in the 80s and 90% range, which is not a group strategy. You promote group to fill large blocks of empty rooms. If you only have a few rooms left, that's called a backfill strategy or a leisure strategy or a transient strategy to bring one here, two there, that kind of thing. So again, if we promote, let's say we bring in a huge ball tournament on a weekend when the hotels are already running high occupancy, now we're investing to bring in a ball tournament that's only going to benefit the neighboring jurisdictions that have hotels clustered right around your city limits. And so now we're pushing the compression into other jurisdictions, okay? So again, back to the Oxford analogy, they have the Double-Decker Festival and a major softball tournament on the same weekend. So they all work to produce those events, and again, Batesville and Tupelo say thank you very much as they push the compression into those hotels by creating too much demand for the supply that they have. All right? So let's drill down a little deeper. I'll go through the days of the week here, and I'm on page 7. This is Sunday nights, comparing the north to the south. And so there's some variation, but not a lot. And again, I'm on page 7. So the next 7 pages here are going through each day of the week, north versus south. So you can see there's Sunday night. The next slide, slide 8, is there's Monday in the north and there's the south. And so you can see the effect of the holidays on both. But again, the south is consistently running in the high 50s, low 60s, and the north is in the high 70s, 80s, and 90s on a weekday. Page 9 is Tuesday, north versus south. And again, you see the pronounced effect of 4th of July, and that's a one-time thing. Next year will be on a different day of the week. I think 4th of July is on Wednesday this year. And so again, here now we're going to look at Wednesday on page 10. And again, the cumulative effect of holidays. Thursdays. So on page 8. I'm sorry, I couldn't read. That was on page 11. And now we have Fridays on page 12. North versus south. And see how they start coming together. And so they're both running pretty decent occupancy. So both north and south are in May, June, July, and August, which is a lot of bat and ball sports, softball, baseball, this kind of thing. That's telling us on weekends in the peak bat and ball season, the hotels are already running well above 60% in the south and the north. And so, in other words, if we want to recruit bat and ball sports, if we want to build more facilities for bat and ball sports, we need to expand our room supply for the weekends. And if we do that, then the big hole in the bucket is what are we going to do with weekdays in the south? Because we know weekdays in the north are covered with really high numbers. The data would indicate that as that New Hampton Inn opens in the north, it may pull the overall numbers down for the north some, but the numbers are already so high, they're going to pull it down some. The real issue becomes the south and what's going to happen in the south. So now, this is where it gets a little messy, but what we've aggregated here, there's Sunday night in the north and the south, showing the huge big, see, it even confuses me. I'm going to go through the north statistics first, then the south, and I'm on page 14. And so this is Sunday night in the north. It's all blue in the north. Sunday night in the north, and then there we've aggregated Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in that second line. And then the final line is weekends. So that shows you for the north, Sunday night versus midweek and weekend. Now I'm going to lay the south on top of it, and there's Sunday night in the south. And then there's midweek in the south and weekends in the south. And so you can see now midweek, basically Monday through Saturday, pretty much the north beats the south almost every day of the year. Okay? And so with that, we've broken this down, and I won't belabor this because I think you all get what's going on here pretty clearly. And what we've done on the next 3 pages, 15, 16, and 17, is just broken it out in thirds of the year. So this is the first 3 months of the year, and there's the north Sunday night, the north midweek. It's the same data, but we've just split it out for you so you can see it a little more clearly in a print version. And so that is January through April, and then we can lay in the south Sunday, south midweek, and south weekends. And so you can see a little bit of a dip with with Easter, which moves around. Sometimes it's in March. And then this is your mid-year. So this becomes, if you're talking bat and ball, you can look at this data closely. North Sunday, north midweek, north weekends versus south Sunday, south midweek, and south weekends. And so this just helps you see it a little bit up close for the mid-year. And again, that 4th of July dip, there's no strategy for that because 4th of July moves around. And have a different effect each year. And then finally, the last third of the year with our 60% mark, North Sunday, North midweek, North weekends versus South Sunday, South midweek, and South weekends. Okay? All right, so then now, that was all Smith Travel Research, STR data. Now I'm shifting over to the questions we asked the hotel. So I'm now on page 18, and I'm looking at a table, and this is the data that's aggregated from our survey of hotels. Again, we had 100% response from the north. Every hotel answered the survey, and in the south, slightly less than 60% of the rooms are represented in the data. And so it is reliable and predictive. And so what we see, that first row in the table shows corporate transient. That's your business traveler. And again, because of loyalty programs and corporate rates, the hotels can track this. And so overall, in the first column, it's about 43.3% of the market. And you can see it's far more in the north than the south. So about 60% of the room nights sold in the north are corporate transient, and about 23.3% in the south. And keep in mind that corporate transient does not mean neckties and suits. That in this day and age, a lot of corporate travelers are technicians, technical people. And so there's a lot of corporate travelers that are blue collar. Or mid-management. Then you have corporate or group conference meeting, and the rows that are in white that are not highlighted all add up to that group conference meeting number. And so overall market, about a third of the market, 32.3%, a little less than a third, is group conference meeting, more in the south than in the north. And so what it tells you, the north's running really high numbers, really high on midweek corporate transient, and then taking some groups on the weekends. And then in the south, they're getting a lot more group business. Of note that stands out, if you look at the south, you'll see 14% of their business overall is in the SMRF market. SMRF means, and Mary Beth, please remind me to call that out. I said I would do it, I forgot to do it. SMRF, social, military, educational, religious, and fraternal markets. They're group markets that are typically discounted, and they usually don't have like a corporate meeting planner, they don't have. They're typically a volunteer doing some kind of reunion or affinity group like that. And it's discount driven business, so lo and behold, 14.5% in the south, only 2% in the north. Then you see corporate, much stronger corporate meetings, much stronger in the north than the south. So these are the kind of things, the smell test, if you will, that tell us there's accuracy in this data, because the trends start adding up from our data set to theirs. Clearly the north has more corporate midweek business and the south has more group business. Government business, 14.6% in the south, and it's because that's driven by the per diem rate. And the hotels in the south will accept the government per diem more than the higher priced hotels in the north. And so then you can see team sports is pretty good overall for the market at 5.6%. It would be much higher if you didn't have such high demand for the rooms otherwise. And so with any new hotel development, obviously you'll have to look at what you're going to do about midweek and weekend to keep your numbers up. And then you see some association business and a little bit of group tour motor coach. Then leisure transient, and you're on a major highway and you're a very attractive destination with great shopping and dining. So this is a little higher than we would typically see. And so this is the reward you get for the beautiful development you've done with Renaissance and everything, that you are solid in the leisure market in the double digits. And that's something to be proud of, and that is not by accident. Then you can see government workers are strong more in the south than in the north, and that's per diem, and we'd expect that when you're close to a state capital, and a little bit of other. We asked the hotels, where are these leisure visitors, that 13.3% coming overall? The good news is the majority of them are coming within 200 to 300 miles, and so it's a solid drive market, and so that's very attainable for future marketing. And so I'm going to turn the page and move on to page 19, and I'll let you read these on your own. We asked the hotels two open-ended questions. One was we asked them to provide any suggestions for future sales and marketing efforts of the Ridgeland Tourism Commission. In the north, one said it was difficult to answer. Market a family-friendly, safe atmosphere, sports teams, tournaments, reunions. So there's a hotel in the north saying, sure, they'll take sports and team tournaments. And then there's a long comment related to developing some kind of meeting space. And then when you see this will help secure larger groups, associations, Smurf, etc. The challenge, and see, we have plenty of rooms, just no place to meet. And so that becomes, in the north, more about filling rooms on the weekend than weekdays when the demand is so high. And then you can see the comments for the south is push, one comment, push for corporate. That's basically saying bring me midweek business. So then we said, please list any other major shifts or trends you're seeing. 6 properties responded. For the north, no major shifts. And then one commented occupancy and rate have remained flat for 17. And so, well, occupancy and rate are pretty high. So they're flat but high. And then softer market overall from 16 to 17, the data shows it's very strong. South, government has been down significantly, and that's a concern for the South for sure. And remember, that doesn't mean for the whole market, that means at one hotel. And so there's another hotel saying they're up over 16. So the hotels are competitive with one another, and that's borne out in those responses. So summary and conclusions for you on page 20. Overall, over on the right, you can see your year-to-date occupancy for 2017 is 65.6%, significantly higher than the statewide average of 58.7%. For the running 12 months, from August of 16 through July of 17, your hotels in the north are running 75% occupancy, and the hotels in the south are running 58% occupancy. So a little low there. Then you can see that, so summary and conclusions, overall you have a fairly new inventory with nearly 2/3 of the lodging rooms built since 2000. So you've got a new inventory, building pace has been healthy over the last 20 years. Overall corporate transient is the highest market segment. It's a corporate market driving 43% of the rooms in the market, followed by group at 32%. The north are obviously more dependent on corporate business than the south, and group a little stronger in the south. And then the north is obviously better in midweek than the south, and the south is a little better on weekends than the north, showing difference in segmentation. Bottom line, there at the bottom, the current Ridgeland room inventory, occupancy, and demand statistics indicate that new lodging development is likely in the North Ridgeland area. And that's just, any hotel you're looking at these numbers is going to say, well, that's a market where I want to be. And so I would say this is a good news report for Ridgeland, because there's a lot of towns where we're saying, what can we do and what can we make happen here? And you have a very solid demand for people that want to come here. And even at the rate you've built hotels in the past and developed, the growth continues to come. And I would say that is a direct result of your hard work. With that, I'll see if you have any questions.
Mr. Yellen.
Without getting real specific, you mentioned the one that's under construction over on the south end of township.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then you've got potentially 2 more in township.
Yes, sir.
To be built. Potentially 3 more across the interstate. Maybe you know the total of those rooms. We can probably get that. With all that volume coming in into what I guess is still all characterized as north, have you looked at what that'll do to the
Oh, it'll definitely, anytime a new hotel comes in, obviously your pie got bigger. And so you're spreading your demand among a larger supply. And so again, right now, 75% of the year in the north, it's running north of 60% occupancy. So arguably, as each hotel comes online, it'll pull those numbers down a little bit. Like I said, in a typical market, you don't want to see your number dip into the 50s. I mean, that's when it's getting a little bit low. And so oftentimes in the hotel world, there's a thing called the pipeline. And that's the moment from when a hotel declares, we're going to put so-and-so flag in this market, and then it's in the design phase and into the planning and building construction. The pipeline is all the way up until the day it opens and starts accepting business. So it's not unusual in a market like this for different brands to quote unquote plant the flag and say we're coming in as kind of a blocking strategy to keep other brands from coming into the market. Typically what happens is they won't all break ground at the same time, and so oftentimes one or two will come online and the others are going to wait and see how the market absorbs the increased supply and if the demand grows. In an ideal world, as you add rooms, we keep driving demand. And so then what happens is you keep building hotels and everybody's going to say, okay, Mary Beth, what are you and your team doing? How are you selling and how are you marketing? What are you bringing weekdays, weekend, etc.? Because that becomes a challenge to work with the hotels to keep the demand there. The thing you don't want to happen is for the hotels just to rob each other of business. I mean, obviously, it's a competitive world. You'd rather take it from other jurisdictions, and you don't want the other jurisdictions to take your growth in your rooms. And so that becomes your challenge, is you are a jurisdiction with basically the competitors at the gates of the city. And so the demand for the north is there. If something doesn't get built there, well then the hotels would likely, and I don't know the zoning rules and everything, but the hotel companies will go immediately to the north of the city limits and build what they need to get into the market. But I doubt, I know there's 5 or 6 in the pipeline. Now they all come out of the ground at the same time and open on the same day. I mean, I think they would pace their way into the market.
Other questions or comments?
You think what's essentially gonna be a new cluster on the east side of 55 north of the Trace will ultimately maybe cause some of the South Ridgeland ones to finally begin to close, or what will happen there?
Well, that's an interesting question, and it's whether the price point and the quality level would be met in the north, where they're competing with the north, or whether they would pull for the south. I would think that there's so much competition for the south hotels with the hotels directly opposite them that they're already in that competitive market. And I would say definitely if you're hitting the same price point as the south in the north, then there you're going to have to implement an aggressive group strategy to bring in groups to drive the demand and keep the demand where it needs to be.
In the south?
In the south and the north, absolutely.
It may be cause us to look at how we're going to expand Freedom Ridge, which is, second phase is planned, so.
Well, and it's exactly placed right in the middle of the two lodging clusters.
Exactly.
And the interesting thing with tournaments and this kind of thing is everybody has traded up to a higher level expectation in lodging. And so a lot of parents, even though the team has negotiated a rate with a certain hotel, there's a lot of parents that are saying, well, if we're going to spend our weekend in a hotel, we're going to stay. And so that's why you saw some of the hotels in the north were reporting team sports and people coming up there, that they'll go, quote unquote, outside the block to find the hotel they want to stay in.
I was a little surprised at the group number for the south, because I wasn't sure that those hotels had that kind of meeting room space. But it's probably smaller type groups.
Yes, sir. Smaller groups, and even in the association market, it's not always the entire association. It's all kinds of committees and board meetings or sections. Even medical, legal, they all have hundreds of little meetings during the year. So that keeps you in the association market. Regional managers meetings. So yes, sir, smaller meetings. And most limited service hotels these days are what you would call like a Holiday Inn Express Hampton Inn. Most of them have a meeting room that'll accommodate 40 people. And so even the corporate market will go there and just let their people eat out. The important thing in all of this is that every research study we've ever done shows that someone who stays in a hotel room leaves 2 to 3 times as much sales tax in a city as a day tripper. And so if you don't get the hotel and it goes to another jurisdiction, you run the risk of the meal, and I mean, you do have arguably the best shopping in the region and state. And so that may not be as threatened as the meal, but if you're staying at a Holiday Inn or something in another jurisdiction, then you're likely to eat your meal closer to the hotel before getting back out on the highway. So if the hotel development goes outside your jurisdiction, then it could also affect the other sales tax revenue to the city.
Other questions or comments? Those are good questions. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Had a long trip to get here.
Yes, sir. Left South Padre Island, Texas to get here. It's much cooler here. Thank you.
Thank y'all for being here. We appreciate what you do in tourism, for sure.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
Support you give us. Thank you. Okay. We're gonna go through our regular agenda now. Proposed consent agenda. The first item is, Mr. McCollum.
Yes, sir.
Come up here and, you have what, item A?
My business card.